And we are live.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday. My dudes, my dudettes, and my non-binary friends. We need a dude equivalent for non-binary area, please. If we could organize that, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
I was thinking of like deer, so I was going like, could it be ducks? But I don't know if that would quite work.
That's like a real Leeds thing. All right, ducks, how's it going? Come on, ducks, let's go. So it is time for another Hub Games Hangout. I am Michael, that is Rory, and we have beautiful, wonderful, splendid special guests all the way from White Wizard Games, Deb and Rob. Hello, Deb. Hello, Rob. How are you?
Hello.
I was going to say, are these wonderful guests coming on after us?
Yeah, you're like the warm-up. It's going to be great.
This is like a conveyor belt. So we're just going to like move you
For
through.
the opening band.
The actual graphic you'll watch is going to start sliding across the screen over the course of the conversation, and then new people will start coming in. That'd be pretty fun, actually. Just like random shuffle.
Randomized guest.
Which guest is going to appear next?
We could make some sort of scene in OBS for that, make that work. That'd be all right. I could make it happen. Anyway, how are folks? Particularly, I know how Rory is because I saw him this morning because he dropped things over at my house.
Mm-hmm.
But Deb and Rob, how are you? Like, how is stuff like in your local area? Are you under 19 foot of snow like some of America, or are you under?
Well, I mean, we're good.
No.
We're in New England. We live near Boston, so basically being buried under snow in February is sort of the normal. This winter's, we got some snow. We had a couple solid storms, but nothing even remotely close to slowing things down in this area. So
standard New England winter.
Standard New England, it would.
I still don't miss it.
Yeah.
Today it's really nice. We've had a few days when the temperature hasn't been too bad at all.
Yeah, so. I think we're above freezing right now. So that's
wow.
But that's above freezing in Fahrenheit, which is like illegal temperatures. Like I was over there for a couple of years, not far from you. I was like about an hour north of you, up to Manchester, and I do not miss digging my car out of a snowdrift for the 5th or 6th time in a season. And
we can get some winters like it looks like Hoth, like you got like snow, literally like snow trenches going like out from our door, little trench going out to the driveway. The driveway's a big trench going out to the street, which is but yeah, this year it's just just been like we haven't had more than like we've had less than a foot actually on the ground, like basically we've had some snow that melted a bit.
Yeah, but enough to go sledding.
Yeah.
Nice. Please tell me you've got like his and hers like white uniforms and goggles for that weather.
Cool.
And you have to like run in a trench.
I really want an AT-AT for the driveway. That would just
that'd be one way of getting around to work.
One of the nice things about COVID is I don't go outside that much. So Rob goes in the snow a lot more than me. So only one of our kids goes to school 2 days a week and everyone else is fully remote right now.
Okay.
So
early on in the pandemic, we sort of organized things and I became the designated runner. It's like, all right, I'm going to be the one who does all the quarantine protocols and, goes out for, groceries and all those sorts of things. But that was early on when we had no idea like how it was spreading and
now that it's winter, I'm like, keep doing that, right?
Yeah. You do it so well.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the guy forever on that.
That's it. You're like a true professional, hunter-gatherer now. So congratulations. We've all evolved back to Neolithic standards and everything is great. Absolutely fine. We have splendid people in the chat as well. Mm-hmm. Oh, what a surprise! Saf is here. That's a shock.
Hey, Saf.
We've also got Yoss, of course. Yoss is normally first person to say hello on the stream, but today he has been usurped by Saf. So there you go. Sate's here. Nicholas is here, and Yoss is impressed because we actually have a Hall of Famer on the stream. So there you go.
Nice.
I have to say, I know one other Saffron from my days of living in Galway as a starving artist, and they were an incredible person as well. So I don't know whether it's just like associated with the name, but I just find people if people are going to carry the name Saffron, they just tend to carry it really well, and it suits their personality.
There you go. So what's been going on? Has anybody actually managed to play anything like games-wise? I mean, Deb and Rob, you actually have like a house of people, which is good. Rory has a house of people,
although
which is good.
you know, a lot of them are teenagers and you know, varying levels of overlapping game interest. So actually, you know, the kids are like crazy into like the online stuff. Although a couple of our kids do really love playing like our type of games, like they play Star Realms with me all the time, and that's pretty that's pretty fun. And Deb and I have been trying to do game nights, both physically and digitally.
Date night on Friday nights now, where we play games.
Cool.
And a lot of those are digital because we wanted to be more social. I was starting to feel like we weren't getting a lot of social interaction, and part of that's because we have a lot of people in our house and a lot of responsibility between work and all the kids. But I feel like we never go anywhere, so let's like do a date night online where we meet up with other people and like play games, and that's been actually really fun. I'm glad I did it.
So sometimes it's regular games, sometimes it's prototypes people are working on, but
and we've been trying to work in games like during lunch or in the evening, like after the kids go to bed. We actually tried out your game Prisma Arena last night. I had actually like opened it up, and our 6-year-old loved it and was like decorating. She decorated all the heroes with heroes. That's awesome and amazing. And yeah, I want to see more of that in games. And then this morning when she came downstairs, she saw it on the table all like laid out and in the middle of being, and she was like, "You played that game without me."
we were in trouble.
Yeah, she really likes to play any game that she sees. So we're gonna like come up with some modified rules to play with her. I said, "Oh, we were just learning the rules. Don't worry, I'm gonna play with you." So
and we've had
board games.
We've had Obsession on the literally physically on the table for a week. You know, basically waiting to have time to
that was my
play
Valentine's Day request.
This sounds familiar.
I read the rules, went through the watch tutorials. Like, all right, it's ready and set up.
But half of Valentine's Day was like getting it ready to play.
But then we got distracted.
And kids needed things happened, and we didn't end up playing it that day. And then we've been really busy with like work stuff and other commitments. But we are going to play it. I don't know if you've heard of that game. It's like a worker place.
I have a copy sat downstairs. Downton Abbey, the Euro game, basically.
Courtship and like trying to get
it's a really cool theme.
Status. I was like when it was my birthday, I had wanted to watch the Bridgerton show on Netflix, which is sort of similar theme. But like every time we would put Netflix on, and like that would be the first thing, Rob would just like skip past it really fast. So
quickly moving on to the time traveling robots or something.
So we ended up watching that, binging that. So then I kind of had that theme in my mind. So I saw that, we've been playing stuff.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead.
Well, I just want to go back to you talking about like date night when you play prototypes with other people. I'm like, that sounds suspiciously like work.
Wait, you mentioned prototypes. I didn't.
Well, I mean, it's
you just slip them in every now and again.
Yeah, like one was a friend of mine that I'd met through one of the women's designer groups, and I'd been wanting to play a game with her. I was like, "Oh, I'm so interested. I want to like." It looked awesome. So when I said, "Hey, let's do these date nights," I said, "Hey, can we play this game?" And we got together with her and checked out her game, and it was super fun. And we're trying to figure out how to do it where like, because the problem is like our computers are in different rooms that we use for like Steam. So in that case, we sat together and like had cocktails, but we've also had date nights where like I'm in my office and Rob's in his office, and we have to do double the tech support to get going and make sure like everyone's audio and webcam's working. And we've done that with like a few other people on showing us the prototype. I mean, many of our friends are in the industry. I mean, we have lots of friends locally and, through family and growing up. But over the past, I've been in the industry full time just for the past few years. And my closest friends now, many of them are in the industry. So, and we don't consider it work. Like even this, I was like, I kind of considered like coming and hang out with you guys. This is like our fun. I told them, I'm like, this is like our date for today. Like we're go hang out and like chat. Like this for us is super fun to do stuff together. And
So
that's been
me and Rory are a couple.
yeah, like one of the biggest benefits for us of like working together has been that we travel together, that we get to do like social, because I was in high tech before I joined the company, and I would travel a lot for work and was going to all kinds of social activities and cocktail parties or whatever, but not with Rob. And then I'd come home and he'd go on his trip. And so it's been really nice that we can travel together. So we have a lot of common friends. So
I kind of like the idea of digital date night, like one of you in one room, one of you in another room, because it's very good for COVID, because it's the ultimate socially distanced date. So
yeah, we also do that now with Oculus. So we got Oculus Quest at Christmas.
Oh,
so I found this game that's cooperative, is so awesome. So Rob, you can't be in the same room; it's kind of dangerous. So Rob will be upstairs, and he invites me to a room, and then we go and we fight a horde of zombies together. So we're like next to each other digitally, and I can turn, I can see his little avatar with the long hair and the ponytail and the beard, but he's not in the room with me. But I hear him in my headset. It's so weird. It's really awesome. Like I'm trying to convince other friends to get an Oculus Quest so we could do the same thing, even though they're not in the same state or the same country.
I actually just talked to one of my high school buddies into picking up a Quest, and we're gonna maybe do some zombie battling as well. But
do you do Beat Saber? Does anybody do Beat Saber?
Yeah. Yes, I love Beat Saber.
Yeah, Beat Saber. I've actually been playing a lot of game called Blast On, which I actually switched my cardio workout entirely to Blast On, because I was like, this is a harder workout, a more intense workout than anything else I'm doing.
Wow.
And I just want to keep doing it. And basically you just go to the point of like, you want to play again, but you're at muscle failure. It's like, all right, I can't dodge bullets anymore. I gotta play.
Yeah, and that you can play with someone else too, if you know someone else that has it and has the game, and you are basically like dueling each other, facing off, shooting guns, and you get all kinds of different weapons that you're shooting.
Unfortunately, not cooperative though. The zombie game's cooperative, which is a lot more fun.
I told Rob about it. Now he's way better than me, so and very competitive.
What have you been up to, Rory? Any thrills and spills from literally your side of the street?
Another quick game of Test of Honor, which is a miniatures game. I was trying out somebody else's solo rules for it. I think I'll go back to mine though. I kind of like the nuance. I gave you the set of Marvel Champions cards for organizing everything. Lovingly cut and corner punched.
You didn't have to. I'm very appreciative, but you didn't have to. And when we actually print up the fan decks of the Marvel Champions stuff, I'll do the cutting and cornering. How about that?
So this arrived today this way. I was kind of like gesturing on the camera. I've been helping someone do some laser cutting. There's a young boy that's part of our kind of game group, and he's been building furniture out of like pallets, and kind of all discarded wood, and so he wanted to do some laser cutting to build a puzzle box, and I was helping with it. And in exchange, I asked him to 3D print. Michael, you might recognize these. It's the cards for Ant-Man and the Marvel Champions.
That's really cool.
So there's one of these for you.
That's awesome.
Every day is like Christmas Day around here. Good Lord. That's super cool.
So I'll be playing that when we hang up after our chat today.
Yes, that'd be cool.
And what else? I've been mostly involved in the doing some mentoring this week as part of the tabletop mentorship program, and kind of really, I'm always nervous about giving feedback on stuff because me, Michael, I'm quite like, there has to be a reason for why this exists and why this must be in the game. And I thought I'm going to like really just frustrate this person. But I think it actually turned out quite useful. I was like, oh, that was actually helpful.
I've been remembering your compliment sandwich.
Feedback.
Sorry, Dave, you go first.
I said they can choose whether or not to take your feedback. So
I did caveat everything I said with that.
Feel free to ignore everything.
But so we have a phrase like when we're talking about game design, and Michael, you know it. It's like if I hear a rule being explained as well. Well, just because, or if there isn't a really good reason for it, I call it like that's hand waving, and I can't tolerate that in a game. It's like there has to be a reason for why that thing exists, and we've had heated discussions over that. So I was kind of flagging that with the person where I was saying, well, why is this in the game and this? And they're like, well, I kind of wanted to do this, and I was like, your hands are waving. But actually I think led to some interesting ideas where I was like, okay, I'm actually really interested in this game now. Like, whereas before I was looking at it going,
yeah,
another one of these games.
I wish I could have the designer with me when we're trying to figure out how to play a game.
I love it when you take a game through the development process from, it's okay, to, oh my God, I want to play more. Like that. Sometimes you just a few little tweaks can get you there.
And this isn't the main topic, but like, and I think you guys would be in the same boat because of what you've done. Is you also understand the whole process, of the game, like taking it from the idea and the development, but also like the packaging for shipping, for the end player, for the retailer, for the distributor, like all of that stuff. And I kind of realized when I'm sitting down to play that like prototype, my brain is running through all of these things at the same time going, well, this could be a problem at this stage and this could be a problem at that stage. And I know that person's just thinking, this is a cool game that I enjoy playing.
Yes.
And it's trying to tease out all of that stuff.
I feel like that goes through our brains even on games that are like totally published by someone else. We're never going to make them. And we're like, why'd they do this? Or what's this? And then like later you figure it out as you're playing. So
yes, if I'd signed this, I would have. Do you mean 360 different individual plastic minis? Wildness.
So Michael, what have you played?
I have very little exciting stuff to report. I have really only been playing sort of like video gamey stuff. I've spent a lot of time on a new game that's not out yet, but the demo's available, called Loop Hero, which is, I think, low-key might be one of the best games of the year when it actually gets released. It's just this little loop of like a little pathway with a little dude. It's all very 8-bit. And they walk around the path, and sometimes they bump into monsters and they fight the monsters. You have literally no control over the character. When they bump into somebody, they will fight them. When they find a treasure chest, they will pick it up, that sort of thing. What you do have control over is this endless like tsunami of gear that keeps on coming at you from beating up the monsters. And at the minute, there's only 4 different types of gear. There's like there's shields, there's armor, there's weapon, and there's rings. But in the full game, there's going to be like 8 different things to manage. And a lot of it is just, that number's higher than that number, so I'm going to try and put that on there. And then I started realizing that, oh my God, there's actually synergies between some of these things. So it's very much sort of like maximizing stats left, right, and center. On top of that, when you beat monsters up, you also get these things called cards, which you then throw out onto the play area, the whole grid. And you actually start building the world around the hero. So you're building like mountain ranges, and you're building villages and meadows and these imposing towers, which then also have an effect on the game. So they might spawn new monsters in, they might spawn bonuses or upgrades to your equipment, that sort of thing. So it's strange having literally zero control over the main character. But it's really lovely having this this overall omniscient control over the universe, and building it how you want it to go. On top of that, there's kind of a tech tree element to it as well. So every time you finish the game, you'll come out of there with a certain amount of resources that you can spend back in your camp. But then when you start again, it's got that roguelike vibe where everything is wiped clean apart from your stats. So it's cool. I think it comes out on the 6th of March, something like that. And I will be there on day one. We did a few streams on it over the weekend, and it was just excellent. Awesome. Really, really, really fun. Really enjoyable. And other stuff, I was part of the Ravensburger designer pitch days over the weekend as well. So I pitched a couple of games to Ravensburger that got shot down pretty pretty gently, I'll say. That was nice. But some really, really good feedback was given. So I've spent the last couple of days on the live streams, like trying to implement something new into one of the games that I think would really sort of like help benefit it. It's like you said earlier, you see the game and you need to add a couple of extra little bits into it to make it sort of pop a little bit more.
Yeah.
So like mechanically and thematically, I think what I'm adding in is like a nice little extra to make it sort of like really, really expand the world. So that's fun. It's all good.
Yeah.
Who else we got in? Robin's just come in as well. Hello, Robin. Pleasure to have you on board. It's all good. All right, Rory.
Yes.
Is it time?
The topic. It is.
The topic du jour.
So when we invite people to join us for the Hangout, I usually ask, is there a topic or something you would like to talk about? And so, Deb, you suggested you'll sing 3D printers because I was talking to him about 3D printers last night on Messenger. Really appreciate the help, Yos. Deb, you had suggested friendship in tabletop games. And I think initially you were talking about kind of what I suppose we were missing by not going to cons and things like that. But I think it's an interesting topic to discuss in terms of, one, kind of what's special or about the game industry, because there does seem to be something compared to other industries, how maybe that can be cultivated with people, coming into the industry, because I think all of us feel that there's a tier that we don't have access to. I sometimes feel that like within the industry, but I know there's other people kind of looking at me going, God, he knows loads of people. So it's kind of like maybe chatting about that a little bit. And then the kind of looking at the potential risks of friendship within any industry, but in the kind of game industry, particularly at the moment. And so that kind of idea of nepotism and how we can kind of try and avoid some of that happening as well, or how do we catch ourselves or acknowledge that it's happening so that we can kind of address it as well. Does that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I think those were all good topics, and if people want to chat about stuff, they can pipe in the chat too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I definitely, I know this is just sort of our sort of base thought, but boy, do I miss seeing our friends at shows, like like gathering together in person at the convention. I mean, obviously it's fantastic to see players and to show off your stuff like in person and see people's reactions to it. But like the community of game creators and content creators and just everybody who sort of does sort of the convention circuit, they become kind of like a second family, and it's so jarring to go from basically a con every month and a half, and sort of a frantic travel schedule to just straight nothing.
And it's funny, like one of my favorite moments, or like part of a con, is the morning when you're going in the morning, and it's like, howdy neighbor, because you're just walking down past these rows and rows of people who you just really enjoy seeing, and it's just that little bit of acknowledgement and knowing we're kind of all in this kind of like spectacle together, because we're all getting ready for when those doors open.
Yeah, we all know what the day is going to be like. Long and busy.
Yeah.
Joss asked if we also do the Europe circuit.
Yeah, so we do. So we do a little bit in Europe. So mainly we do the US circuit. We do like Gen Con and Origins and PAX East and PAX Unplugged and PAX West and BGG Con and like basically
the distributor shows and
the distributor shows, Gamma Trade show, like ACD show, Alliance show, like we so we do mostly the US stuff, but we've done Spiel for many years. Actually,
we have a big
longer
Spiel.
Yeah, and we've been doing it longer than this company has existed, because like with my previous company, which was originally called Gary Games and then became Stoneblade Entertainment. We made Ascension, and we had and I was sort of the operations guy for the company. We were small, so everybody did multiple roles. And I had produced stuff before, and I had done lots of shows before, so I was the guy who organized all the shows. And Essen I knew was a big show, and I wanted to go do it. So we went, so we basically went into that kind of cold. And I had done a million shows before, but never one in Europe. And boy, getting stuff into the country and figuring out everything, but in a different country with different import laws, et cetera, was crazy. But I did it for a whole bunch of years with Ascension, and then I started up a second company. So I was actually working with two companies at the same time, and we were actually on the Ascension side. We're thinking about shrinking our booth a little. And I was like, oh, we'll just keep the same booth size, and I'll bring in, the White Wizard Game stuff. So for a couple of years, it was Stoneblade and White Wizard Games at the same time in the booth,
which was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun actually. Yeah, we got we had the both teams together, and then Stoneblade's basically sold to another company, their physical stuff to another company. So basically so they moved out of that our booth entirely. So then it just became a fully White Wizard Games booth. But so we love Essen and Spiel, and we go every year. And Debbie and I actually have made a sort of tradition of taking
our
off
only vacation of the year,
literally our only vacation
this year.
We've been going to Amsterdam for about a week before the show, and that's been a ton of fun. And then we started telling our other friends about that we do this, and now we've got like a group of people who go and hang out in Amsterdam, and then head over to Spiel, and tons of fun. When we've also picked up the UK Games Expo, and we were looking at adding, I forget the name of it, the one it had like a distributor thing ahead of it. There was one more which we were looking at adding, and then COVID happened, and that.
Well, there's a distributor show I think in Copenhagen that we have been wanting to do as well, and I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
I think there was one related there, but I can't. Maybe I'm.
And we do have presence at other European shows. Like people have run tournaments and such for us, but we haven't. I would love to do more. I mean, if there's other shows that people suggest,
I'm going to.
We love an excuse to leave. Get over there. So.
It's funny because I can actually like picture your booth at Essen. It's like I know exactly where it is, and I can probably sleepwalk to it, which is to have been there over consecutive years and built up that mental kind of map for people. I think is really powerful. It's one of the really important things to do. I think at those shows is just make it a no-brainer for people to find you as well.
Because we've thought about it. They've offered us to switch locations. We're like, everyone knows
we know where we're I
like the bathroom. I know where the beer garden is in relation to our booth.
As long as you know the way to the beer and back, and then the bathroom, you're good.
We go over to the class booth, some karaoke.
What were you going to suggest for it?
Well, last year I was getting Memory Summit. I went to Cannes. Which
that.
Now it's really weird because it's really quite the floors are quite low, so it feels quite oppressive when you're in there compared to being in Essen, which is a kind of quite a big space,
big open spaces. Yeah,
but the weather is great in February, and they have a kind of game designer prototype night all 3 nights of the show, and it's just incredible. Like people are queuing up beforehand, and they've got tables booked, and they're going in and they're basically presenting their games, so you can walk around and just look at hundreds of games being demoed. So it's a really cool way to kind of check out new games and just see a different audience. Again, it's a very family friendly event, and they really appeal to, because I think they have like more traditional games at it as well, both kind of like chess and older kind of card games as well.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got this interesting mix of people coming along. And then the other one is, which I have not yet made it to, is Luca.
Oh,
which,
the Italian one.
Yeah, which I think is November.
Yeah, we've had
I think
people
there's one in
ask.
April and one in November. And I keep being kind of told about that one because I get the feel it's a bit more Gen Con like, because it's like apparently chock full of cosplayers. It's held within the walls of this incredible medieval town.
Ooh.
You know, the weather is good. Everyone's sitting out in the streets, kind of enjoying food, playing games, and it's meant to be just a really great atmosphere for it. So it's like that's on my bucket list to go either as an exhibitor or a guest.
We should arrange like we'll go at the same time so we can.
Yeah.
That's the fun thing about Amsterdam is like Rob was saying, we originally went to Amsterdam before Essen because one of our coworkers was Dutch. So he was like, we should go and I'll show you around. And he sees his family every year.
And the flights into Amsterdam were actually slightly cheaper than flying into Dusseldorf. And so we're like, it sounds great.
And then we fell in love and now we want to go. Yeah. We go every year. But then we found out, oh, so-and-so's coming or so-and-so's coming. And you talk about like how you get to know people in the industry. And Rob had a pretty big network of his own before starting Stoneblade, just from his whole, history in Magic the Gathering and being a Hall of Famer and going to a lot of events with other, super competitive gamers. A lot of people from that world started companies in our industry. So, whenever he and I would go to anything when I first joined the company, he would always see so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'd be like, how do you know them? Yeah. Oh, Magic. How do you know them? Oh, they played Magic. Oh, they were a dealer at Magic. So I didn't have my own network.
This changed very quickly. So basically we went to shows together and, people were like, hey, Rob. And, and I'd introduce Debbie to people. And that was, and after a very short number of shows, like Debbie is so great at meeting people and getting to know people and such. It started being like everybody was walking up, hey, Debbie. And and I was like, oh, introduce me to this person.
Who's that?
Debbie is just so good at making friends with people. That's been a lot of fun for me. I get to do the coattails thing a little bit and make a lot more friends because of Debbie.
Yeah, I think like Rob had his own group of friends, and I kind of felt like the girlfriend, and here's Rob's friends, and I'm trying to like work my way in and getting to know them, but they have this whole history together. So I was like, well, how do I make friends in the industry? So I came in, I didn't have any of my own friends. I came from high tech. I was an executive in high tech. And, I had been helping the company from the beginning on the side. And eventually when the company got big enough, I was like, I want to be having fun like you're having. And I joined and I want to be going to game conventions. It sounds awesome. And and when I joined, I, wanted to make some friends too. And I also noticed on social media, there was all these groups of people and they all seemed to know each other, but I didn't know them. And like, how do you, get it into these groups and get to know them? Like you were talking about at the beginning. So, I can tell you a little bit about like how I approach that. Yeah. I actually like tried hard. Like it wasn't, I know Rob always makes it sound like it comes so naturally, but like, I actually like I had a desire and I wanted to make more friends. And one thing is I am a huge fan of being one and finding them as connectors. Like you probably read the book about I think Malcolm Gladwell, came up with the concept initially, but there's certain people in the world that just know a lot of people. And if you can become friends with one of these people, then they can introduce you to a lot of other people. And I tend to be one of those people. So in the high tech industry, I knew everyone and I could do it, but here I didn't know anyone. So I kind of looked at like, oh, who are these people who know everyone? And I tried to like go up and introduce myself and be friendly to people. And sometimes those people will come by and introduce themselves to me, like Julie from Greenbrier Games, like came by our booth and introduced herself to me. And, I didn't know anyone. So I think it's a combination of the two, and that other people are very proactive and super friendly. I think to new people in the industry, and sometimes they'll make the effort, but if they don't make the effort and you make the effort and reach out, I found people have been super responsive to me and friendly to me. So I'll mention a few of those people, like Daryl Andrews, for example, is always posting publicly. He's very inclusive. He'll just post it out on his Facebook page, like, hey, everyone, we're going to this tiki bar, or hey, everyone, I'm going to run a clubhouse tonight. And it's super awesome that like anyone can go. I love that. Also, Rachel Blasky, she approached me and asked me if I would be interested in doing women's networking groups. This was after I already knew a lot of people. So she also was like, hey, Debbie knows a lot of people. I should do an event like this with her. And she wanted to do networking groups for women at conventions. And again, like they're very inclusive in that we post them publicly. Anyone can come join this. We'll post it on Twitter. We'll post it in like various Facebook groups, which anyone can join, and tell everyone that wants to come. And at that, we do a roundtable where we introduce everyone. And some people think those are really goofy and like, oh, I don't want to go to a networking group. But like, that's how I met like Elizabeth Hargrave. She sat next to me at one of these breakfasts. Oh, wow. That's how I met Kathleen Mercury, who then later ran an RPG group that I would go to once a week and play games with other women. Like, so I met a lot of my, people that I admire and like never would have had the opportunity to meet if I didn't go to do that. People probably think, oh yeah, everyone, it's easy. No, I actually still continue to go to these groups, and that's how I met more and more people. So that's been super helpful to me. And then I'd say the third thing was, I was like, Rob, we're going to throw some parties, because I am a social person.
Twist my arm.
I am a social person. So like we've thrown not like massive parties, but like little social gatherings, both, for people in the industry and for our community. So we'll do like little community gatherings. We've done them at Origins multiple years
That
in a
is
row.
so fun. Yeah.
Because you talked a little bit earlier about sort of like blurring the lines between friendship and work, like hanging out, at Brucadia, with a bunch of people who love Star Realms is like super fun for us. That's not work. I mean,
technically it's work, but
technically it's work. And yes, the company did buy all the drinks. So, and food. So that was, that's where it is a combination of work and friendship. But like we do, like we look forward to going on our trips and hanging out with people and our friends and stuff. And like when we go to Amsterdam, we'll get together and play games with people. We also I guess I do, maybe you do too. But like reach out to people. So when you travel and you go to different places, so, like I was in Belfast. I went to Belfast at one point with my parents when I went to Ireland, but I didn't have any time. But like if I did have time, I would have tried to reach out and visit some of the people in the area. And so sometimes you can't, you're too busy. Like we were on a tight schedule. We like just happened to be flying in and out of Belfast. But like when we went to Amsterdam, we got together with Emma Zaha, I think is her last name.
Zaya. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew her from like Twitter, and she seemed really cool. And I was like, hey, do you want to meet up when we're in Amsterdam? Or maybe she asked me. And we met up and we had pancakes, and we learned about her obsession with parrots. And then she came back.
Saw a surprising number of parrots while walking the streets of Amsterdam.
We had an Airbnb and we played. She showed us how to play Welcome To, and that was really cool. And and we met up with other publishers that were there. It was just like super fun. But some of that's being vocal. So like saying, hey, we're going to be in Amsterdam for 2 days. Like I would say that on Twitter, before Essen, if anyone's around, and then people can reach out to you. I'm pretty open. Like I like people and I find things in common with like everybody. So, if I think that's the other thing about connectors is like, if you can find someone that's friendly and social and knows a lot of people, they're happy to take you along and introduce you.
And so I think there's kind of so much in there to kind of like unpack and talk about. I think that idea of, I as a guess, you come across as quite a social person, like, and I think I'd imagine there's people who are thinking, but I don't feel very, social or comfortable in big groups, and I'm actually quite like that. Like I enjoy being with people, but I've come to appreciate I like small groups. So that's why I don't necessarily go to the stuff that like Daniel would host, because I'm like,
it's too crazy.
I'm so exhausted and I don't have the mental energy for that, but I love having conversations with people. So I think the kind of first step is kind of recognizing the kind of company you enjoy is kind of one of the things. But that idea of reaching out beforehand, before a trip, you reminded me, like my first trip to Nuremberg was, I can't believe I got there. Like I got a booth a month before the show, which the person laughed at me when I phoned up to kind of book it, and then contacted me 4 days later and went, well, actually we've had a cancellation. And and I didn't understand that just shouldn't have happened. But I looked at the booth layout, and I contacted all of the people around me.
That's awesome.
And just said, I'm coming to Nuremberg. Really looking forward to meeting you and chatting. And it took an effort to kind of do it, but it made a huge difference because they were like, "Oh, you're the guy who kind of reached out," because everyone was nervous. you know, we were in the kind of innovation area, so everybody was new their first time, and so I think it helped to create that kind of linchpin. And I've kind of fallen out of the habit of doing that, going to cons now, because I suppose I've gotten to know so many people at this point. But that idea of reaching out beforehand, I think, is really helpful if you're going to a con. I think, going somewhere for the first time, reaching out to the people, like I would do it with game stores quite a lot. And Will in the chat is commenting because, hang on, I'll just bring this up here, because he's saying, partly, yes, but this is a great example where I meet up with Will and Cole, who are going to be guests next month. They have a Drive Check podcast, and they talk about Cardfight Vanguard, which I enjoy. And so it was a chance to connect with them. But again, I tend to do it in smaller groups.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be big groups. Like when I go to PAX West, I've got a bunch of friends who live in the Seattle area, and they're
he goes to PAX West so he can see his friends.
Yeah, but basically, I'll arrange with them to go meet up for dinner or go over to their house and game, and just sort of shoot out a bunch of emails like, "Hey guys, I'm coming to town this time." And some of them are groups where they know each other, and so I'll email all them together and do you want to get together and do a game night? And others are outside those groups, so you reach out individually. But it can be the giant parties, or it can be just getting together with that individual or small game group that in that area.
Yeah, and I love meeting with people one-on-one. So I'm a weird person because I can be really social in a big group situation, but I can only tolerate it for a certain amount of time. So at conventions, I need to leave and go back and take a break during the day and just recharge, because I can only be around large groups and I think a lot of people have that same experience in the industry. But I love one-on-one conversation. So I also try to meet people for lunch or breakfast, or Rob and I will meet people too together. I get to know people so much better when it's a small group. So for me, going to these larger things are more to meet people that I would then, I can get together with them and get to know them better and chat with them. And I just love, you were talking about, walking through the exhibitor hall and just stopping and chit-chatting with someone I haven't seen in a while and just catching up with them. It really is old friends and does feel like family. It's not when I was in high tech, it was very competitive. If we were at a restaurant and at a convention, we saw people from another high tech company be like, "Oh, there's the guys from so-and-so," but we would never go over and say hello or talk to them or anything. It wasn't even allowed. We all had signed non-compete agreements. We couldn't talk about what we were doing at work with someone from company. And
they were the enemy.
They were so
I think that's really weird, because it is strange that out of all the industries that I've worked in, gaming is definitely the one that is the most sort of open arms. Everybody's hey, awesome, fantastic, you're making it. Everybody, most of the time, I say everybody with a very broad stroke, but it's a very positive industry. People are always excited for what everybody else is making and what everybody else is playing and what everybody else is doing, which is fantastic. And I sort of see that golden hour before the doors open at a convention as it's almost like being backstage at the concert before everybody's about to go on stage. And I always called BGG Con as the end of basically the end of the world tour party. That was just the big excuse for all of us. But I think back to when I was a kid and all the stuff that I was into, same things, games, nerdy stuff. And it was weird because it was very much almost like a solitary kind of existence. But now, as the nerds have grown up, I think we've all learned that we're also being the super friends now, which is I'm really kind of appreciative of. We are excelling in in our joy of doing what we do. And that sort of like is a very, very nice feeling. And we want to share it with as many people as possible, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think because so many people are in this industry because they love the games. Like obviously money's a lot better in a lot of other places. Like Debbie took a pretty significant pay cut moving from high tech to working in games. But
Luckily, I only need to buy T-shirts for my wardrobe now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I save a lot.
saving on your clothing budget.
Yeah, so I think that's a big part of it. And also the fact that like what we produce is relatively low cost. So customers, it's not like, oh, a customer is going to buy a piece of like software for running their office and that's the only one they have. In games, like look at the shelves behind us. There's so many games. Like, people who like games just buy a whole ton of them. So so definitely you can there's this natural inclination of being open to people because everybody loves the hobby first, and there's not really a strong pressure to push people away from that because customers tend to buy lots of so it's not they're not usually people aren't just one company customers. They have games they love from us and they have games they love from other people, and and that's great.
I have to throw in, this is kind of a side story in terms of that like value of what you're selling, and it kind of links to the high tech. In the early days of Rory Story Cubes, we used to go to the educational show in the NEC in Birmingham, and we were beside a booth that was selling software for use in the classroom. And so we had like our stall, tiny little 10 by 10 booth packed with sets of story cubes, which are tiny. And we had like lots of them in the booth. Lots of people coming and by, looking at the game. A lot of student teachers asking for discounts and samples. We're like, it's £10, buy it. Like, but then the person beside us was like, yay! And we're going, oh, what is it? Oh, we just sold our software. We just made £10,000. We made the whole trip worthwhile. We're like,
that's sale.
Oh my God, how long is it going to take us to get to that point? So it kind of got me thinking, you kind of have to like people because you have to talk to a lot of people, especially at a convention setting in order to sell the games. The good thing is the lower price point generally means you can all have the same customer. So you're not fighting so hard for that one little slot. Yeah. And I think that kind of helps, that you kind of go, if they buy my game next month, they can buy someone else's. It's I don't think it's an either or situation as much within the game industry as it is elsewhere.
Also, a quick shout from William, who says, thank you for doing Star Realms because they have made many new friends and acquaintances through playing that game. So you go.
That's awesome. Thank you. And that's one of the great things about Star Realms is the player community is so great. Like there's a fan created Facebook page for Star Realms, and those guys are awesome. They'll chat a lot on there. Talk about games they're playing.
Like anyone can join, and then they have like social activities and tournaments.
And they're so welcoming. If somebody new comes in, they are very very warm and receptive. Like I've definitely had sort of the opposite experience in some of the competitive card games I've played in the past, where people are like, super cutthroat and
we won't mention any names.
It's great seeing just a super warm, open community. It's welcoming, and we've so many times at our booth, people have come up to me or Debbie or and said, how they, Star Realms has been a great game for connecting with someone in their life. Like, my son or daughter or whoever relative will.
A lot of people play with their spouses. Like talk about being in other parts of the house, and they're like playing Star Realms with each other.
But basically, sort of, it's a game that they can bring a lot of people together because it's just very easy to on ramp to. It's a nice game for non-gamers, but there's like strategy in there for the high-end gamers to sink their teeth into.
And so that I think brings up a kind of an interesting question about like friendship within games, because I mean Star Realms is largely a one-on-one game. You know, ties can be made between other, you know, hyper competitive games. How do you manage to maintain the friendliness aspect of that game? Like, I have some thoughts of, you know, what it might be, but I'm wondering, is that something that you've noticed in terms of the audience?
Interestingly, it wasn't something we designed in intentionally, or I particularly thought would be there. In fact, when like Star Realms, when we were developing it, I was like, you know, this is great and I love it, but I think that it's going to have this fairly narrow audience because we're basically taking a game style that's normally very not cooperative, but sort of multiplayer solo, where you're doing your thing and they're doing their thing and everybody's got their blinders on. At the end of the game, oh, let's count up our points, and it's there. And I was worried that the attack element in Star Realms would you know, basically mean that only competitive people would like it. But I'm a competitive player and I liked it a lot. So, you know, great, we're making this game for those people. But I think the fact that that competitive nature, that combat interaction forces the players to engage with each other. Like in a lot of the deck builders, I'll sort of like phase out while other people are taking their turn. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, and who knows, they could have cheated on their turn. I have no idea, because like I'm not paying any attention to what they're doing. I'm just worrying about my turn or what I'm going to buy when it comes up. But with Star Realms, you've got your bases out and they're attacking you, and are they going to blow up your stuff? And you're, you know, so you basically have that forced communication. And I think that element is what really, you know, drove it in. And the fact that you can have really good turns and lose the game, but have really good turns. You can have winning moments in Star Realms. So you can lose the game, but you have that turn where you draw your cards together, you get your ally ability, you blow up their base for free, you get to put something cool on top of your deck. And that sort of those mini wins within the game, I think, help bring down the competitive level a little, because you get those sort of cool experiences even when you lose.
So I might.
You said what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry. Told it right out of your mouth.
I would throw it as well that possibly cost of entry makes it so people aren't overly heavily invested in having to make it work, is possibly another factor, and the speed of the games. You know, I find any game that allows for like best of 3 helps reduce that, like, oh my god, I spent all this time building this thing up and you crushed it, like, you know, in that one turn. That can kind of ruin that experience. Whereas, like, and this is this side conversation about like development, like there's so much going on, I think, within the player experience within Star Realms that makes it that kind of great game for first dates, as Saffron's saying, for bringing with you and meeting new players. And that, I guess, means that the people who are experiencing it are having a positive first experience as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a side topic. But I think it's kind of interesting. One thing I just kind of wanted to, because I'm thinking of people watching as well, like, I guess you get approached at, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of people who are trying to figure out how to build relationships possibly within the industry and connect with others. One of the things, I guess, you know, at cons is a great opportunity for people to introduce themselves to new people. And I was going to say, you know, one thing is to remember that everyone came in from outside the games industry. I don't think you were born with magic cards in your hand. And I know, Deb, like your story, which I can't remember the podcast, but there's that one you did recently, talking about marketing.
Gabe, the board game design lab one.
Yeah, that was just
I told
really
you
fascinating.
No, nice. Yeah.
So that's why I'm not delving into your background, because I was like, people can go and listen to that podcast and we won't compete with it. But I think Yeah, so everyone's coming in for the first time, but I do think it's kind of important to think about timing of when, especially at a con, when you're introducing yourself to someone, and that's to do with having a little bit of awareness. Because I don't know if you've ever had that experience of you're in the middle of talking to someone or demoing, and someone wants to talk to you, and they kind of like open their case or they do something where you're like, you don't get that we're in the middle of something. Like, has that happened to you much at cons?
First I'll say that, like, you know, we don't like get upset when people do that. Like, we understand that, you know, everyone's coming from a different place. But yes, we've definitely had people that like we're in the middle of a conversation, or you're like at the work in the sales area and you're like literally trying to help people pick up product, and someone's trying to interject that they want to show Rob their game design or whatever. But we'll mostly like, I'll try to, I have a schedule that I keep for Rob. So most publishers have a schedule that they keep. So if you want to show a game submission, you can usually reach out ahead of time. So it's better to try to reach out ahead of time and schedule time. If you're not able to do that, I think it is good to stop by the booth and look for, you know, it is usually a couple of people that can make those kind of appointments. And, you know, and ask, but you have to be cognizant of when someone's demoing a game to someone, you don't want to interrupt, or if someone's in the middle of a conversation. So I guess try to make eye contact with the person. And if they're not making eye contact with you because they're in the middle of something else, just stand back and wait. And I've seen people wait very patiently, and I have a lot of respect for that. I have definitely seen people also do, you know, where they step to the side, they wait, you know, and it can be a long time to wait till a demo's over, a conversation, because we can be very chatty people. But, you know, if you see someone waiting, you kind of try to like, you know, get to talk to them. But, you know, stopping by the booth is, I do encourage people to stop by booths and to talk to people. But yeah, most publishers have a schedule where they have back-to-back meetings, or they're like down for like helping with demos or helping in the, you know, sales area. We have a schedule where we're working certain areas as well. So just getting contact information can be a good thing, like trying to exchange business cards and getting someone's email so you can follow up with them. If you can meet people earlier in the day or at the end of the day, like that's usually a quieter time for most people. And obviously if you can schedule time with them, that's good. And in social situations can be good. But I will caution you that like we're on our feet, like for like, you know, at least to like, so Rob and I will work the booth all day. We usually will get to a booth at a convention at like 7 a.m. We're always there, like sort of getting everyone going and going over what people, you know, should be focused on that day. We'll be oftentimes have like, you know, 5-6 hours of meetings throughout that day. The booth usually goes to like 6 or 7. And then we always have a tournament area open. And then we go over to make sure like, oh, has dinner, have these guys gotten food over here? How's everything going? How the tournament going? Hey. And we go over and like chat with people who are playing in the tournaments, because we know, a lot of our players will be over there and our, you know, people helping out in that area. So that's another good area. I know that our demo teams have met and made friends in our organized play area, because the people working in that area tend to have free time. They get the tournament running and then they're hanging out. So that's a great area to also meet people. You might not meet like the person who makes decisions on board game design, but like you, or the person who is doing what you are interested in, but they could tell you who that person is and maybe introduce you.
Yeah, and just I was going to say, just for making friends in general, not necessarily meeting someone who's important. Like board games are awesome. Like basically, they are natural icebreakers. I think a lot of people who are, you know, they're shy, have a hard time talking to somebody for the first time. You know, it's hard to break. So, like, if you go to a game fair and you don't know anybody, you just go to some demo tables and sit down and play, you know, sit down for board game play, or go to the open gaming area and people are looking for a person to play whatever board game. Like, you talk to people when you play board games. And so if you're, you know, if you have a really hard time meeting people, introducing yourself, talking to people, just sit down and play a board game with them. That's like one of the things board games are best at. One of the things I've always loved about board games is they're such great social icebreakers. Like, well,
yes, I mean, there's the like the Plato quote. This is where my philosophy thing kicks in. It's like you can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation, and it's just like, yeah, that's really true. You know, you can just sort of like sit down and you have this thing that is essentially, you know, it is the social lubrication between you and the other people at the table, which is great. But you can devote a lot of your back brain power, your central processing unit, to like how to play the game. But then you're sort of like also, you know, because you are concentrating on the game, I find that the conversation will often flow naturally regardless, like even if people at the table are complete strangers to each other. So yeah, it's perfect.
Well, I'm going to be fairly like specific about the stuff that I do. Like in both of those circumstances, is one of the things when I'm trying to talk to someone or get their like help or support, I will explicitly say, I wonder if you can help. And I just open with that statement, because what I've learned from training and through testing this many, many times, people have a desire to help others if you can make it really easy for them to do it. And that's by being really clear about what you're asking for help with. So just like starting with, oh, I wonder if you could help. I'd like to maybe talk to someone about a new game I've been working on, or I'd like to find out about how I help at the booth next year, or, you know, how do I meet Deb or Rob? You know, but just opening with, I wonder if you can help, switches I find it's like an Aikido move. It kind of like switches the energy of the conversation, where the person isn't kind of like, what are they going to ask for?
Absolutely.
It's now like, oh, I get to contribute something. So I do it on phone calls all the time, like when I'm customer services and stuff. It works like pretty much every single time. Because you're opening the door for the other person. And it means when you're frantic and someone comes up to you with that request at a booth, you'll immediately go, oh, hang on, well, how can you'll find your energy switch. The other thing is like sitting down at the table with other people. To me, it's just trying to be curious about the other person. Like asking, where are they coming from? You know, what games have you played so far? Like that, to me, at a games convention is a great way of opening up a conversation, and you get to learn about what people like as well. So it kind of tells you about the person by them talking about the games that they're chatting about. And I find small talk quite awkward, but there's a couple of those questions where, you know, what have you seen that you've enjoyed, or what have you played that you've enjoyed? It's not about you talking about yourself, it's allowing someone else to express, and then you hope maybe they'll ask your question in return. And if they don't, well, maybe you don't want to be talking to that person. But
I always like, what are the shows made you excited? Like what's made you excited that I've probably missed? Because then they're like, oh, you should check out this. And often like you get like some really fantastic, like completely out of the way, like if we're talking Essen, like, you know, Hall 7 right over at the back, there's some sort of Korean designer who's made this incredible dexterity Euro game, something like that. So yeah, I think probably just having a couple of like bank questions just stuck in the back of your head, ready to go. Oh yeah, it opens a lot of doors. Yeah.
And I just realized, actually, I could almost put, I wonder if you can help before those questions, because you're opening the door. Yeah. Michael knows I like combos.
Say that, like, well, first I want to admit that I have a lot of social anxiety. So even though if you see me at a party or you see me like out and about, like it seems like I'm like, I stress a lot about, like, if I'm going to sit down at a demo table, like if I'm on my own and I see a game I want to demo, I'd be very nervous about sitting down with a demoer I don't know and like trying out a game. I'm just going to admit that up front. And I'd like to comment that I think the reason why a lot of us have board games in common is because it does make it easier if you have social anxiety. Then you have the game and you're playing. So once you sit down, so just give it a chance and, you know, start that conversation. You have something to talk about. You have the game to talk about. You have other games to play at the convention to talk about. And also like assume, like sometimes I've met people and they didn't seem that friendly to me. And I've tried to talk to people at booths when I've gone around and tried to meet other publishers and they kind of brushed me off. And like, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Cause like I said, they might've worked like 16 hours the last 3 days grow and try again, because like I've had people that were not super friendly to me, and then I met them again another time. I say like, oh, you have to meet people a few times, and then they're like, hey, Debbie, hi, like, and I'm like, oh, and I think it comes from like a lot of people, you know, are nervous about meeting new people, not just you, but the people that you're going up to approach, and they're not sure what you're coming, then they don't know you, they're trying to figure things out. So, you know, give people the benefit of the doubt. If they are acting like maybe they don't like you or they don't want to talk to you, it probably isn't that, because honestly, everyone I've gotten to know is all like, as Rory said, want to help people. It is probably that like they're crazy busy, or, you know, they ran out of stock and they have to figure out how to get the product in their booth, or, you know, they had a rough day. Like, just give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, I think a lot of times people take things personally, and it's not personal. You just have to like keep trying. And I know that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But, you know, I keep that in mind, and that's helped me a lot. And I think part of it is that a lot of people do have social anxiety. So when I have met them, if I met them and they're off at that moment, you know, but the next time I met them in a more relaxed situation, and it just worked out, and I got to know them really well. So I'm glad I, you know, made the effort.
And so I'm kind of watching the clock, and I was going, actually, there's a couple of things I want to try and hit on. So I realized we've been talking a lot about cons and physical kind of meetings and friendship, but like right now, a lot of it's happening online. And I really struggle with that, you know, and at this point in time, I feel like the outsider to a lot of what's going on. So I'm curious, both Michael, because I know you're pretty active, you know, in social media and interacting with, or at least keeping up on what's going on. And
I'd say that doing Twitch is probably more of a thing, but
yeah, but you'd still, I think, be aware. And Deb, my sense is you're quite active as well in terms of social media, whether that's the kind of marketing part kicking in. But I'm curious, like, what have you done in that space then to be able to kind of cultivate friendships? Because that's the point where I'm like, this is too much work.
Yeah, I mean, I think I try to spend a little bit of time each day, and it's easy to get sucked down the rabbit hole and like be on Facebook for hours. But I try to spend a little bit of time checking on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Those are really like the three that I'm the most active on. And Facebook would be my primary. I use Facebook. A lot of people use Facebook for business communications and things like that as well. So I try to get on, and I look and I comment on people's timelines and stuff. And occasionally, if I know like I'm going to see someone, or, you know, I think of someone, I'll like check on their profile, because a lot of times you don't see things in your news feed from people that are connected to, because, you know, Facebook has their really weird algorithms. So I've been trying to like connect with people and think about like, oh, who haven't I talked to in a while, and like reach out to them and do one-on-one like calls with them. That's something more recent, because like I was saying earlier, I started to feel like we're not being like I'm not being as social as I used to. And I was starting to feel isolated. So, you know, we did this thing where, you know, I started reaching out to people that like I knew I was interested in seeing their games, or they had mentioned they had some games for us to look at. I signed us up for, you know, exciting date nights of speed pitching, you know, where Rob and I go and we look at a lot of designers' games back to back, and we met some really cool people. Like I remember we met someone who was demoing from a boat off of what was it, the Dominican Republic?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They were living on it, designing the game and pitching. And I've had to learn a lot of technologies to get into some of these virtual things. I've also done like, you know, some virtual events. I've done, as I mentioned, like Kathleen Mercury had reached out to me and some other people, or maybe she posted it in like a group that I belong to. I belong to quite a few Facebook groups, and that's where I learn about a lot of things. And she had posted that she wanted to do like a weekly RPG, and I had done that, and that was super nice. But then things got busy and we weren't able to continue, but I'd like to get back to that. But that was online where we used Zoom. I've also brought board games into more people's lives who didn't play board games. So like I have a women's group that I go to that has social hours, and they were playing categories, and I just was like, yeah, I have some games I can run through. It was like categories every week, and I was like,
let me show you this.
I didn't want to like take over, but I think I kind of.
But she took over.
Yeah, I just ran just one. This was just like a week ago. I ran just one, and tattoo stories. And super fun, and they had a lot of fun, and they're still talking about like how creative is Debbie that she brought these. So I think there's a lot of games that we can bring to our existing friends and families that might not be in the board game industry now that everyone is starting to feel. I think we're at the point where, hey, this has been going on so long. Like I'm feeling isolated. So it's a good time to reach out and ask people like that if they want to hop on Zoom, and you can do it with just one person or multiple people. We also finally are getting to know how to play Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator, which, you know, we had checked it out at the beginning. This is like really hard, and it takes like 5 times as long to play a game. Our games on multiple of our games on those platforms so that we could demo them at virtual conventions, which I'm going to just pipe in here and say virtual conventions are a great place to meet people. If you want to meet people from publishers, because there's not a lot of traffic at those virtual Discord. So I'm just hanging out, like hoping someone will come by and hoping someone will sign up for the demo slot. So those are great. And also we run our own Discord channel, which we had a Discord channel in the past. It was more of our development team for the digital app, but we've now grown it to be more of a company wide with all of our product lines in there. And I've become a lot more active in there. And like, I play Star Realms with people that I've met in Discord. Like, I didn't know them. I actually don't even know who they are in real life, but they're my friends. Their Discord username. And I know, like, I play Glitterfart. Her name's Glitterfart on Star Realms. And like, I actually they're a married couple, and I met them in our Discord channel. First, I met the guy, and he's like, oh, my wife would also like to play you. And I was like, all right, yeah, send me a challenge. And it was super fun. But being active in Discord is a great place, not just your own Discord channel. So I'm also active in some other Discord channels. But like, honestly, like, I never knew how to use Discord before that. Like, I mean, I've used it when I needed to, but I was not an expert. So learning Discord. We just did a few demos this past week on how to use Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator and to play some of our games. But there's other videos out there that will show you how to use those. But those are nice because you can just do one-on-one, you know, and play a digital game with someone.
And it's funny because, like, I'm trying hard not to like acknowledge it, but as someone who grew up like and learned how to use a Commodore 64, you know, with very little help, and, you know, spend their life problem solving stuff, I find threaded conversations or the lack of threaded conversation on the likes of Discord and Facebook so hard to deal with. Like, and I kind of go, I'm not even going to say it, but there's a phrase that goes in my head that, like, and I hate it because I'm always that person who would jump in and learn something and try it out. But with a lot of social media, I really struggle with keeping up with the conversation. And then especially on Discord, like, so how do you manage that aspect in terms of like interacting with people where you could have said something, 5 other people have said something completely irrelevant to that last thing, and it's like the conversation is just like swept away at that point?
Well, I asked the kids, and they told me, you just deal with what's there. You forget about all that stuff that you missed. Just focus on the current thing. You can't be trying to answer that thing that someone said like 10 comments. When I say kids, I literally mean my kids, because I'm like, how do you guys do this? Like, this is so frustrating. Like, in our Discord, like, because I was in a lot of Discord channels. The other thing is to check out the notifications option. So one of my issues was, this Discord thing's really cool. And I joined all these servers, like, you know, different groups that had, like, my local game store has a server. And then I was just getting like notifications. So you can mute a server, or you can so one thing that you can say, you know, just, you know, someone calls my name, or, you know, keywords or whatever. So I have a lot of my servers muted, and then I go in occasionally and I check. You know, it's sort of like, you know, I watch Reddit occasionally. I don't go and read everything that's happening in Reddit board games, right? I just look at what's hot right now, and that's what I focus on. And same word, like, what are people talking about right now? When you have time, jump in, but it is kind of a real-time conversation. You don't want to go and pipe in on something that someone said yesterday or 2 days. It's very real-time in Discord. Snapchat, I still haven't figured that thing out. Forget that. I mean, I could if I needed to, but it's not. I don't think that's important. Instagram is, you know, if you like photography and photos, it's a really fun platform. Instagram's pretty low tech, in my opinion, and it's asynchronous. And Instagram, there's a really cool community on there, and it's definitely asynchronous, where you can go anytime and kind of search by hashtag and comment, and you can comment on someone's picture like a week or a month later, and they're still going to be super excited to get a comment. And in Instagram, you are really interacting with one person. It is very one-on-one. It might not feel like it, but if you actually go and you engage ongoing with the same couple of people, like, you'll get to know them and comment on your stuff, and you comment on their stuff if you have an account. So we have a company Instagram. I have one that's my own personal. It's like very small, but I like to have a place to post my pictures that I take. I play a lot of games that are like kids games with my daughter. So I post most of those personal account, but I think Instagram's a nice one for people who get overloaded by the real-time aspect of Discord. And TikTok, I created an account. I haven't done any videos yet. My daughter does TikTok. It's amazing. Like
kids these days.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that person.
I am going to do some TikTok. I have like ideas and I am going to do it, but it's a very intimidating. Like these are a lot of new technologies. It's sort of like the new age, but TikTok, I feel like is not a great place to sort of get to know people and make friends, in my opinion. Like it's super fun and it's super cool and the content's really cool and you can reach a lot of people if you create content, but it's not, in my opinion, and maybe I'm actually not like a huge user of it. So maybe I'd love to hear other people's opinions if they disagree, but on Instagram, like I've gotten to know people one-on-one, on Twitter as well. So when I would go to convention, I'd meet someone and then they'd see other people and they were really good friends with them. I'd be like, how do you know this person? Like you like live in other countries and like they acted like they were best friends. They're like, oh, we know each other from Twitter. And you'll hear a lot of negative comments about board game Twitter that like there's the cancel culture and a lot of negativity. And there's a lot of really goodness and you get to know people.
So,
a lot of people are just saying like, hey, I had a hard day. Oh, here's a big like happy hug, virtual hug emoji or whatever. So I think there's a lot of, I like Twitter. I try not to get involved in all the drama, and there is drama, but it is a way to kind of get to know people one-on-one. And it's weird when you go to conventions and people are like, oh, you know, like Deb, but like, and you only know them from this little tiny, like, profile picture.
And you call them by their profile name.
Their profile name, but so I would say you don't have to be on everything. I'm in marketing, so I am kind of in a lot of things, but I would say try them out and find one that works for you. I would say the Discord's a very one that you should learn how to use if you don't. And maybe, I mean, we could do a session just on Discord if we wanted to at some point.
Well, so I was going to ask in terms of, because we're kind of veering into the marketing and as a publisher and gamer, but generally in terms of the friendship side of it, like what you kind of touched on, like what are some of the benefits of like how's it worked for you in terms of making that effort to kind of reach out, connect with people, listen to people? How does that show up? Because we've talked a little bit about this off camera, like in terms of say the personal and the work end of things as well in the industry.
Do you want me to comment? Yeah. So I think, I mean, on a personal side, it just feels good to have people that I have something in common with, that I care about them and they care about me. And, you know, I have people that I check in with regularly that, you know, if they're having a hard day or I have a hard day, like I can talk to them and they understand. And I think like there is this commonality of you're interested in board games, but there's also sort of like, you know, like a lot of people do struggle with a lot of the same things, like social anxiety. You know, I'll admit, you know, I struggle with depression at times, and I've met other people that have been open about that. And that's really nice because then I feel, you know, when other people can be vulnerable and be open about their struggles, and I can talk to them about my struggles. And I never had that before in other industries where I worked. And even in, you know, I'm lucky that I do have some close friends that I've talked with, you know, stuff like that about, but generally speaking, like never like work colleagues or people that I've worked with. I think, from a work perspective, I mean, the friendships are definitely in terms of like networking, in terms of, hey, I'm looking for something, or I need some information. Like, you know, we had some questions about like, you know, how is that going to work, or how are things going to work in the UK versus Europe? And so that, you know, I know work in those countries and could ask some questions. Or, you know, I've had people reach out to me like, where do you find your graphic designers, or where do you do this? So we do a lot of, or hey, there's this, you know, event going on you might be interested in. A lot of just sharing of information and sharing of resources. And you also find out about groups. So like, for example, I joined I think it's called Healthy Meeples. I mean, I think anyone can join it, but it's never been posted anywhere, I don't think, publicly. But someone told me about it. They invited me. I think Rachel invited me to it. but it's a lot of people in the industry focusing on wellness and healthy living. And, you know, there it's not work. Like I'm meeting people that, oh, this is so-and-so and so-and-so that like Mike Young, for example, is in there, who was with, I think he was with Plan B Games, and now he's with Pandasaurus. And I never knew him before, but I met him in this group that someone else introduced me to. And the commonality in the group is everyone's, you know, focused on eating healthy and working out. I've never belonged to a group like this before, because I tend to belong to groups where everyone's overweight and we're really struggling with like staying on the healthy living. And there's a lot of healthy. These people are like, oh, I did my 8 workouts this week, or like, you know, here's my salad. Like, so it's very motivational, because there's actually like quite a few people in the group that are very fit and very committed and very disciplined. And I really like that. So that's a good group. But my point there was that it was a friendship thing where someone invited me, but then because it's in the industry, I'm meeting other people that are in the industry as well. And I'm seeing those people commenting in other groups where I never knew them before, but now I'm getting to know them as a person from this other related group. So that to me is, you know, kind of cool. I've also hired people that I've met as friends in the industry. In general, like, you know, you'll hear if you look at the research, you know, most people find their jobs through people that they know.
Yeah.
So many people will hire people that they know in the industry, but these are people that I didn't know. Like when I say I've hired people that I know that are my friends, they're not my friends from before I entered the industry. They're people that I've met in the industry that, you know, I've seen how they work. I've seen who they are. I've gotten to know them as people. And I want to hire someone that I trust and also has the skills that I need for roles. So that's, you know, that's something that does happen. And that's one of the reasons why people want to get to know people in the industry, right? So that opens up the question of like, well, you know, how can other people build those relationships, because they, you know, also want those opportunities. And one thing that you know, we also do is like we posted positions in the tabletop games. I think it's called the Tabletop Games group that Ross Thompson runs.
Yes.
And I'll tell you how like relationships come into that. So I posted that, and then people I knew would contact me and say, oh, this person's really great. So the job's posted publicly. Anyone can see it and can apply for it. But, you know, if I have 5 people apply and some of the people have people that I know saying, I've worked with this person, they're really fantastic. Like that's a very strong data point.
Yeah. Trusted reputation.
Yeah. And so we did, we actually had a very formal process. We interviewed a bunch of people, but like, that does help, and that does say, oh yeah, we're definitely gonna like talk to this person, but we also look at people's experience. I mean, the thing is, a lot of times people are looking for their first break when they're looking to get into the industry. They don't have that experience. They haven't worked in the industry, and that's where, you know, meeting people can help. The tabletop mentorship that you mentioned. So I met a lot of people. Rob and I spoke at that at BGG-Con, the last BGG-Con where there was. We spoke at it, so we got to go to it, and we met a lot of people, and that was really awesome. And we we met people there that like we wanted to sign their games, but their games were already signed. So like that was a great opportunity for people who don't know people in the industry, looking to meet people in the industry, specifically for game designers.
Yeah. I would also say if you specifically want to be in the industry, a great way to meet people in the industry is to volunteer at a booth. Like basically take some game that you like and you know how to play. And, you know, like if a company is going to a show, really good chance they're looking for volunteers. You know, volunteer for the booth, do some demos. You'll, you know, talk to people at the booth. You'll meet, you know, like in a lot of cases, you'll have good social interaction with people in that company, and that can lead to you meeting people outside of that company. But many of the good friends I have in the industry, I met because, you know, they were, you know, working at a booth.
Graphic designer used to work at our booth for many
years. And he worked at a booth for me, and like volunteered at a booth way back in the Ascension days, and you know, basically you get to know people in that way. I also say like I tend to become friends with pretty much everybody who I work with. So we'll hire someone who we don't know at all. And basically, you know, especially if we're in the same office together, very soon. I consider them in my friend group. Might not be the most professional thing.
Yeah,
but
every
that's
business says don't.
yeah, do not do what I
I
do.
even did that when I was in high tech.
Yeah.
So, but I the other thing I want to comment on the booth thing is it's great if you can help out at booths. I know not everyone can travel. So another opportunity now is also in the online community. So you can like be active in Discord channels and get to know people. Like I said, I've gotten to know people on our Discord channels, that are just super active. And they're just like, hey, they just message me and say hi. And, we get to know each other. You need to let people know if you're interested in working with them. So I'm not like, it's a little odd. Like, so say we have someone that's been helping us for a long time and they're really great. Like they might not want to work for us. They might just really like helping at the convention. So it's really good if you are interested in working in the industry and this is good for any time you're looking for work ever, is let everyone that you know and everyone you meet in that industry know, I'm really looking. Like a lot of times people like they tell me, I'm like, oh, what do you do? Like, I just want to get to know them. And they tell me about their awesome job that they have. Well, I'm going to assume they want to keep this awesome job, which probably pays a lot of money and not work in the board game industry unless they tell me I'm specifically looking. So I definitely would encourage people to let people know, yeah, I'm here helping, but like my end goal is I want to be a board game designer someday, or I want to say you want to be a board game designer someday, but you have no idea how to go about that. Like, well, we know lots of resources that we could point you to. We also look for play testers and stuff like that. There's a lot of things you could do if we knew that was your career path that you're interested in, we can guide you. So let people know, or let people know, yeah, I'm really good at social media, my personal stuff, but I've never done it as a job, but I'm interested in doing it. Is there any way to start getting involved? You also
has a question that I'm going to come back to, but I just want to touch on something you'd said earlier about trust. I think that excuse me, is like a key aspect of essentially kind of friendship that it plays into when you're getting to know people. It's not just about, there's kind of networking, there's the friendship that emerges from it, but ultimately it's about trust, so that if you ask for help, hey, can you help? The person may not have the answer, but they trust you as a person to basically act on your behalf and reach out to their kind of contacts and say, oh, Rob needs some help with something. Does anybody know someone who knows X within the industry? And I think that's one of the best ways, I think, where that kind of making the time and effort to build friendships becomes really helpful. That it helps with solving problems, because you have now a kind of a networked mind that's willing to act on your behalf through the relationships that you've established with other people. And that has shown up so many times over the life of Rory Story Cubes, the Creativity Hub, and Hub Games. And I'll be quite clear with other people where there's certain times I'll say, well, I'm not going to share this because it's not appropriate and I need to be able to vouch for it. So that's how I act. It's like if I get to know you and I trust you, then hopefully my word counts for something when I ask other people for help. But it's not something I give freely as well, because I'm kind of very careful about that. But that's so the point of kind of, because I sometimes see this in networking, it's like, I want X, so I'm going to go after that person to get it. And it sometimes becomes clear in the dynamic of oh yeah, it's a one-way relationship where you just want to get something from it. But the weird thing is, and actually I'll give you this story because I think it kind of relates to it quite well. My first year at Nuremberg, where I got a booth, very early days of Rory Story Cubes, 2010, and I was standing in the freezing cold, waiting in line to get a taxi because the taxi queue was really, really long. And I got talking to the guy in front of me, tall, dapper gentleman, English, and I was kind of saying, oh, so he could hear myself, my colleague, talking about how the show was going and story cubes and kind of manufacturing, and we were trying to sort out problems. And I could see him constantly looking over his shoulder, twitching, as he was hearing what we were talking about. So I kind of tried to kind of engage him in the conversation. I was like, oh, so, you know, what brings you here? And I was asking him about working with, I said, you know, do you work with factories and in China? And do you have any tips for that? And he was being really kind of reserved. And I realized, like, I have to give something here before that person's willing to share anything. And I said, you know, we're working with a factory in Hong Kong. They're called Thai Fat, and you know, they make our story cubes. And he went, Thai Fat, you know, and he'd worked with them for years, and they were like, oh, they're amazing. And you know, he said, you know, tell Benny I said hi when you're talking to him. And he just kind of like gave a lot of information, and it was one, I was willing to, like, I wasn't just trying to take information. I was trying to show that I knew something about what I was talking about, and willing to share something that I had with that person. And that accidentally built a connection with them as well. And I think that's kind of important in terms of those kind of friendships, that you're not going in just trying to, you know, hold everything to yourself and gather
It's not
things.
strictly mercenary.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think also your comment about asking people questions, finding areas of commonality also can build trust. So
Mhm.
like, you know, if you start to, oh, where are you from? Oh, you know, I've been there. I went to college there, whatever, you know, you
Yeah.
sort of find common ground that you can talk about, or, oh, you liked that game. I love that game. That
Mhm.
builds trust as well. Like just finding things that you have in common, building rapport with the person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that kind of, the other thing I kind of want to touch on, and I actually kind of don't know the answer to it, was that flip side of, so the benefit of the kind of friendship and getting to know people is it can help you solve problems. It can help you find people that you need for jobs because they'll come recommended. You know, that's the benefit of building up the relationships, is that other people vouch for you. And I think I actually asked you this in our conversation about asking you to make introductions to other people on my behalf, because I'm still the same. Like, if I'm meeting someone new, my golden rule is it's better to have someone else recommend you
Yes.
than you go in yourself cold, kind of reaching out to someone. So I do practice what I preach. Whew, okay. So that's, I think, the positive aspect, you know, that network acting on your behalf. But my worry is always it can lead to kind of accusations of nepotism, because we're, you know, sometimes we're really, really busy. We're trying to find someone. And this is where the trust thing becomes really important. Like, we want someone, you need someone for a job, and you need to know it's going to get done. And you're not going to have to be standing over that kind of person, or, you know, whether it's a booth or graphic design for a project. So there is that risk of going for the known factor, and that's the person within the group. And that's where I sometimes worry about the vocal people within the community. By that very nature, it's that the attention goes quicker to them as well. So I'm kind of curious, how do I ask this? Like, how do we help people who are not within that bubble? And a lot of them
they're not in the clique.
Well, I think,
and the cliques are false, like, because
it does feel really cliquey. I sometimes feel like there's cliques and I'm not in the clique. Sometimes I feel like there's cliques and I am in the cliques, but like, I've always been the kind of person that like am open to being friends with anyone. Like, I've literally had friends tell me like, Debbie, why are you friends with that person? Like, cause you know, not in this industry, but just in general. So I guess I think how we can help people is by being individual advocates. So, you know, I'll say that, like, you know, anyone that watches this, you know, stream, which is publicly available, you know, please, you know, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook. If you want to talk to Rob, you can still reach out to me.
I'm not so good on the Facebook.
On Facebook,
he doesn't pick up.
I am much like we talked about earlier, like some people really good on social media and some people good on some channels and not others, but you can really reach out to me on any of the channels, or you can email me. My name's DEBBIE at, you know, our website is my email. So you can reach out to me and I can give you advice. I can introduce you to people. I think but as Rory was saying, like, I'd want to get to know you. I'll tell you a little story. So I went to MIT, and so I'm in the MIT alumni database. So every so often I get a call from someone who is like, hey, I live in the area. I'm trying to get a job, and like, can you help me? And it usually goes something like this. I'm trying to get a job in management because I have an MBA. Can you help me? And I'll say, well, usually you have to start in an entry level position. And they're like, no, I want a job in management. And usually the first thing I ask is, hey, because I don't get that many calls like this, what I'd really like to do is let's meet for coffee. This was before COVID. Let's meet up and meet for coffee. Tell me when there's a good time. We can meet up. I don't even live in the city. I live in the suburbs, but this would be a great excuse for me to go into the city. So we can meet in the city. They're usually living in the city because they're recent grads or in school still. And I've had multiple people say to me like, well, I don't have time to meet for coffee. Can't you just, recommend me for a management position? And I'm like, wow. So like, and I'm saying this because this happened to me with real people, the expectation that like, I've never met you. Yeah, we went to the same school, but like you want me to recommend you for a management position. First of all, that's a pretty big deal. You're going to be responsible for people working for you, but they're that they didn't have any concept. It's okay if they have no concept and they think they're going to graduate right into a management position. That's okay if you don't know what you're doing and you're clueless. But the idea that they couldn't take their time to meet me for a cup of coffee in exchange for me introducing them, that's the kind of thing you should be happy and interested in doing. And even outreaching and asking, hey, can you meet me for a cup of coffee? Or, hey, could we do a quick, Zoom call? Or maybe let's play a game on Board Game Arena, and get to know each other. I'll also say I would love to learn how to play more games. So if you know how to play your favorite game on Tabletopia, Tabletop Simulator, or Board Game Arena, Rob and I do date nights every Friday night, and we'd love to have people, show us games. So like we're open to that as well. But just generally, you can reach out to me for either me or Rob. This is especially for people that don't have the network and don't. And we also are, always looking. There's not a lot of diversity in our industry, and we are always looking to help support people that come from underrepresented groups. So, in particularly that, and the Tabletop Mentor, program does a good job at that. So again, I'll mention that program. That's a great program. But I can introduce you to anyone that I know that might be able to help you. But I will want to meet with you and get to know you. So we'll need to spend a little bit of time together and get to know each other. And I have had that happen also in the tabletop industry where someone I just met was like, can you just introduce me to this person and that person? They wanted like introductions to like 10 different people, but like I didn't really get to know them yet. So you do reach out to people. So I will be an advocate if you want to meet someone in the industry. But I think that's what we can do is as individuals, first of all, posting our jobs publicly if we have positions, making ourselves available for people who don't have the network to meet with them, introduce them, and encouraging everyone else that's watching this to do the same. But trying to consider people who, we love giving people a chance, but like, it is hard, as you say, like, depending on the positions that we have, like we need to know that the person could come in and do the job. So, it's also part of getting experience. So maybe you do some contract work and you get some experience. I don't think everyone has the experience to just come in and do a full-time job in the industry if they've never worked in the industry, and maybe don't have all the experience, but there's ways, and we can give you advice on sort of getting started in the industry.
Yeah. So I think on the hiring end, the posting your jobs publicly and looking at all those applications, and obviously you can screen them for, the skills that you want, et cetera. And obviously, if there's someone who came recommended by a friend, you can also, obviously you will want to look at them as well because they have a trusted recommendation, but also making sure you're looking at that pool of just sort of raw, fresh applicants. And from the side of the person who's trying to get into the industry, maybe doesn't have those contacts yet. Sure, you can build those contacts over time by volunteering at shows or other things. But in the meantime, look for those job postings and apply to them. Other people who have those contacts are going to hear about those things, and they won't have to look quite as hard because their friend's going to be like, hey, did you see that, this or that was posted? I think you'd be great for it. So you're just going to have to work, find those, find those postings and apply. So I think there's, something to be done for us, for the people who are doing the hiring, and for the people who are looking to sort of, make sure that we're not, that people who are don't know you yet aren't overlooked.
Yeah. And again, like you've said so many things that I want to kind of touch back on. I think like we're the same at Hub Games. Like we very conscious the front facing people are two white dudes. The team isn't that. It's, well, at this point the dynamic has shifted, but it's basically kind of equal in terms of male and female in the team. But I really want to support people, and I'm always nervous about reaching out to other people to offer to help. So kind of, I suppose my thing is, yes, if you want to help with anything that you think Hub Games can help with, please do reach out. I am definitely better at having like a Zoom call with someone than answering a list of email questions. So I've learned that's the best way. If you want to engage with me, can we have like a 30-minute call? And I love talking to people. So that's a quicker way to kind of get a reaction. When it comes to kind of like work, one of the things we've started to do is we try to hire people on a contract basis initially. Employment law is kind of different in Europe. And for us, the contract is like dating. It's like you get to know people, you get to see if you can trust them, where their strengths and their skills are. And it's an opportunity for someone to prove their worth. That's where we'll take risks on contracts with people, more so than employment. So I'd rarely be looking for someone to come to me and say, like, I want a job with you. It's like, I want to prove that I can be useful, is like a key part of it.
And the contracting thing is pretty common because often, like, when we discover we have a need, usually it won't be a full-time job need yet. We're like, last month we were getting along without anybody addressing this, but we're starting to notice, hey, there's a problem here. So often it'll be like, oh, we need like someone who's dedicated to this and doing 5-10 hours a week on solving this thing. So often like a position will come up that is a contract position for a relatively small amount of time. So it's something someone could do while they kept their other job or whatever. But often those things grow. One, if somebody's competent, they tend to keep getting stuff on their plate, and that will end their hours. And then at some point, they're gonna want to hire you because they're not gonna want to lose you. If you're doing a good job and you started doing one thing and then you did another and then you did another, at some point they're going to realize, oh my gosh, we really need Sally. If she goes, we're in some trouble. So then at that point, like they'll likely, look for hiring. So, I know we're kind of off on a side tangent of how to get that.
well, I'm kind of looking at the comments.
So there's a tabletop jobs group on Facebook. I don't know if anyone is in the chat is a member of it. Maybe they could post it in the chat.
Actually, I am. I can find a link for it. So give me a second.
But that's a common one where people post. But it does, I'm sure it definitely does happen when people like have projects that come up and they have someone that they're working with. Like there's people that like we've worked with in the past as contract workers. So if we had a quick need, we'd probably, we might use them again, as a contract, like there's agency people and things like that. But like, for example, we had an opening for a contract graphic designer and we posted in that group and we had a lot of applicants. So there is a lot of competition.
Yeah.
I mean, competition might be the wrong word. There's a lot of people interested in working in the top industry, but that's a common place where people post their positions and then you can apply. But again, as we said, like, well, one thing is like having a good, looking at what the company is looking for and showing in your cover letter or in your CV or resume that you have those skills, or why you're a good fit anyways. Like maybe you have some other skills that would be good for the company and you have some other skills on the list. You don't always get people that have, even though you get like 100 applicants, you don't always get anyone that has all the skills on the list. So don't be intimidated if you don't have every skill that's on the list. It's common that someone has a lot of the skills, but they also have some other skills, which would be really great. Most publishers are small to medium. So we need people that can do a lot of different jobs.
This, there are a bunch of questions I want to go back at. This is running on longer, but I think there's interesting questions to respond to. But there is one thing I think in terms of like applying for stuff that I really want to flag, because it's a conversation I have with my partner quite frequently, and she's like a strong kind of network of female friends that she's known since they were kids. And they're often lamenting about how underqualified men are applying for jobs, or more importantly, overqualified women often don't apply for jobs because they don't think they have the experience, but yet men are often applying with less experience, but think they know more.
Because men are more confident. Is that
Yeah.
what you mean? Or?
Yeah. And I think and women kind of check themselves because they sometimes hold themselves to a higher standard because they've had to fight for a higher standard along the way. And so one of the things would be to really encourage, like, if you don't not qualify because you don't think you're qualified enough, that would almost like bump you up in my list than someone who came to me and thought they were like overqualified, super qualified for that role, because I'd be dubious of that.
So I'd add to that it's not just your qualifications in terms of skills, but are you a good cultural fit? So, if you think you know everything and you have an attitude that shows that and that comes through in the interviews, then that you may not be the best fit. So I've hired a lot of people over the years, and the person who has like the most qualifications on paper isn't necessarily the person that gets hired, because you want someone that has the skills that you need, but also that you think they can be a team player and work within your current team environment. And this is where diversity is something that we want to proactively go out and try to bring in, because, we want to expand our team culture, but it's a process.
So very quickly, we were interviewing years ago for the role of account manager, and we had a guy apply, and we had this question, really great question. Tell us about a time when things went wrong and what you did to fix them. And so this man who's applying went, nope, can't think of it at the time. And we're like, really?
Never done anything wrong.
There wasn't like anything that kind of like went wrong. It's like, no, nothing that was my fault.
Yeah.
And then we were talking to someone else who we've known for many years, and they were like pouring out this stuff of like times, and we're like, oh, stop. Like, you're giving us too much information. But like, they were overly aware of where the shortcomings were. And that was kind of like we had just listened to that conversation about people presenting themselves as being kind of overqualified for it. But that to me was a shining example of to make a point of asking that question and, figure out how people kind of perceive themselves as well is helpful.
Yeah.
And Aquasilis has mentioned actually, the idea of getting the right people on the bus. That book by Jim Collins is really interesting read. It's the kind of philosophy I have. So just want to go all the way back to, I think it was Yoss's question was the last one I kind of noticed.
That one, specific skills.
Yeah. I think from our perspective at the moment, and you might be in a different place, for us, it's actually bizarrely marketing. Because this to me is where there's the people in the industry and they're talking to each other, and to me that works really well for a certain kind of game. Our games don't really fall into that, what I would consider the hobby category, and for us, like, we really need to reach a wider audience with our games, and it's been proven challenging where we've had to kind of look outside the industry to find people who can help with that kind of work. And I think listening to you in the podcast you did was a great example of like knowing your stuff. And I have friends who work in other industries, and I know how they talk about marketing, and it's very different from sometimes how people kind of within the industry talk about it. And to me, that's a point where now actually being in that inner circle isn't as helpful, where I'm like, I need to go outside of that to find it. So marketing would be one thing. I think you also mentioned actually the concept of volunteering on like Discord. So like volunteering to demo games online. I was like, oh my God, that would be so helpful.
Yeah.
People act, we're always trying to build up champions. Like that's a crucial thing for us as a company. And the idea of like, actually, yeah, just having people who are offering to run our games, not on any kind of formal con cycle, but just are willing to demo our games would be an incredible way to build the community up. And I think that's then some of the opportunities that are opening up through kind of lockdown and this shift, which leads into kind of Robin's question. There's going to be new skills and new jobs that are needed, and things like that, like being a volunteer, but not at a con, just a volunteer, is a really helpful thing.
Yeah, we had. I mean, we work with the Double Exposure program. I don't know if people have heard of that program. They run the Herald. It's called. You're called a Herald if you're part of the program, which is people who play test and help at conventions. It's a structured program where they will help arrange opportunities for you with different publishers. And yesterday we actually just launched our own program, which is what did I call it? The Wizards Apprentice Guild. So we, because of COVID, we also are looking for people to help with play testing. Whereas normally we had a group of people that we used for our play testing. Now we're opening it up to, people that are interested, that are online. You can be anywhere in the world. Ask a question on this stuff. And one of the questions I did ask was, are you interested in demoing our games online, for virtual events? And by virtual events, yes, there's conventions, but I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe every Wednesday at 8 we'll be playing Kapow and Discord. If anyone wants to jump into that channel and wants to jump on Tabletop Simulator, we'll have someone there who can help coordinate, that kind of thing. And I think if you look at other industries where Discord is more mature, specifically the video game industry, it's really common that people help out in Discord and then they get bumped up to moderator. They're sort of like in a Facebook group when you become a mod or an admin. It's oftentimes not a paid position. It can be a paid position. There's certainly, community managers. I think community management is an area where we need more skills as an industry, particularly now in this new virtual industry, virtual world, I should say. But yeah, so people become mods and they help moderate the Discord. So when someone asks a question, like a rules question, like, yeah, Rob or I could answer a rules question on Hero Realms, but like our rule books are pretty straightforward. So if you actually just open up the rule book and look at the card, most people could also answer, or could just ping us and say, hey, what's the answer to this question? But we're not able to be in Discord all the time. So sometimes questions will sit in there for a couple of days, and we'll get to them when we get to them. Someone will tag me and I'll jump in. And the same is true on Facebook and on Board Game Geek. Like, we're trying to keep up with all these channels, but it's an area where if you want to get more involved with the publisher, I'm not saying us, because I know everyone likes different kinds of games, but any publisher, if you just jump in and start helping out, and let them know, hey, I'm helping out, because they may not even notice. If some publishers are not like active in particular channels at all, so they may not even know you're doing it, but that can be super helpful to a publisher. And I think we will move to a model where people do have jobs where like part of their job is managing the Discord server and part of their job is, right now at most companies, as far as what I've seen, don't have like full-time community managers, but I think over time, we'll see more of that.
And I think that's a great example of, because I kind of look at, innovation within different fields. And that's a really great example of, I don't think anyone's going to start and say, I have a job for a community manager and I'm going to hire for it. But if someone were to prove their like ability in that arena, you're like, I need to start paying that person some money, because you see the impact. And it's a really tough one, but I think there's a lot these days where it's kind of like you have to take the first step and contribute something and show that you have something to contribute, because sometimes the publisher, like, we're all really busy doing lots of different things. We don't necessarily know all the answers to things, and it's so great when someone solves a problem that you didn't know you had, or you didn't know how to solve as well. So being proactive in that sense is a great way to kind of start building friends within the industry as well, because you're helping someone out, and then that person will want to help you out in return.
And even if you don't end up getting say you do that, you help out, in a community for one particular publisher, and you don't end up, working for that publisher, that's still experience that when you're applying for a marketing or community manager position at another company, can be like, hey, I did this stuff at this other, in this group. I'm a mod in, Board Game Revolution or whatever, whichever Facebook groups or Discord, like that kind of experience is super helpful to companies. I'll add, because you were talking about skills. I would agree that, there is a lot of need for marketing skills in the industry. And, I've seen more people coming in from outside the industry, and I'm happy to see that, because I think it will, bring up the knowledge of everyone, because everyone kind of shares information in the industry. So that's great. I think like some things, like, for example, Board Game Geek, like, there's a whole maze to navigate, like when you're coming out with a product and putting everything up there, like, things like that. So becoming an expert on any one of these platforms, whether it's Board Game Geek or Discord, or, I'm an expert at Facebook groups, and I start a group and I can show that I can grow a group, or I started my own Instagram and I brought it from 0 to 10,000, followers. Like, that shows, if you're a marketing person, metrics mean a lot right now. Like, everyone wants what's called growth marketing. Like, show me the numbers, show that, like, how to engage with people and get them excited about the content you create, and you can grow the amount of people interested in any topic. Like, you could grow we have 2 Pomsky puppies. You could grow a Pomsky group, and that's still a great, point. You don't have to even grow a board game group or, Discord server, or, Board Game Geek specifically to board games. So that's not TikTok, like I need some TikTok videos. So if anyone on here is a TikTok expert, send me a message. But TikTok's an area where all publishers should be active, and they're not right now. It is an awesome way to just reach a lot of new people, not necessarily like proven to, from a purely marketing perspective, not proven that it like drives revenue, but certainly the stats are showing that you reach a lot of new eyeballs, a lot of new markets. Like you're talking about, Rory, like reaching, just more people outside the hobby market. Like, but most publishers aren't doing much in TikTok, because we don't know anything about it. We're kind of busy with our day job. So,
well, my children warned me not to.
Yeah, my daughter told me I'm too old and that she should do the video. But she's too busy doing her own to do videos.
Yeah, they just don't want to bump into you on it.
But I feel like older than the people that do stuff on TikTok, Mom. So maybe if you want to have a TikTok channel, it shouldn't be you. I'm like, thanks. I'm like, what about the granny gamer? And like, there are some old people, so she's wrong. But
yeah. Robin had asked a question about, does kind of location matter? Before this year, I would have said yes, because we had experiences where distance created misunderstandings with the people we were working with, and things that could have been like answered in a second just by being in the same room and being part of a conversation. They would have picked up on the answer. So previously I would have said it did matter. Now I go, I can't see any company arguing and saying you need to be in the same space. Like, we've had to adapt to it. And yes, there might be benefits of being face-to-face, but I think overall, we just accept that is the requirement. And particularly for us being based in Northern Ireland, it's not like the first place people want to move to.
I don't mind it.
Yeah. I know you don't, but like we've spoken to people in other parts of Ireland, and they're like, oh, that's like 2 hours away.
Yeah.
It's the sense of scale that happens here, that it shrinks down compared to when you're like in the US. Because I remember coming back even from Canada and happy to drive like hundreds of miles to get somewhere, and then coming back and going, oh, that's 20 minutes away. Your sense of proportion shrinks. But now with because everyone's getting adept kind of at working remotely, it actually opens up a whole pool to us for who we're working with. And like at the moment, Michael, we're talking to people in UK about the PR, we're talking to people over in the US about it.
We work
at Amazon Marketing
all around the world, like digitally. So we've got all East.
It's never
Europe,
been an issue for us.
In Asia, like just the U.S., just all over the place. So I think you're right. Currently, location is not a significant barrier. Just a quick heads up, we're getting close to babysitting, and
our sitter leaves at 4, so
there may be a child busting in at any moment.
Well, that is probably a good time for us to wrap up.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I mean, to me, it's always the sound of a good conversation when it runs over. And I think we've been able to answer some questions for people, but I think for me, like, how would you sum things up for people in terms of friendship? What would be like a key takeaway for them from the conversation?
I mean, I think be yourself. Don't be afraid to reach out and really make an effort to get to know people. Like, not because you want to get anything, just because you want to get to know people and meet people. And you can learn from everyone, whether or not they have an opportunity for you. I mean, if you are looking for a job, I know not everyone is, but if you are, don't have that in mind. Have in mind, I want to meet someone who knows about the industry and get to know them as a person. And if that's your goal, that's, to me, like, have no expectations and things go well. And keep trying. Like, don't get discouraged. I mean, I know that sounds negative, but I just mean that there is a lot of social anxiety. You're not, if you feel that, you're not the only one. I feel that at times, and just, do your best and reach. I think everyone's very open to helping people, but there is a pandemic going on, so people have their good days, their bad days. And also use a lot of these online. There's so many opportunities to meet people now in the virtual conventions and the Discord servers. So the Facebook groups, people are way more active in the Facebook groups than they were before the pandemic. So if you are social media savvy, it's a great opportunity to jump in and, meet some people. You can message me and I can, give you some names of some of the groups I belong to, but they're very active, and I recommend that as well.
And just once this pandemic's over, if you're just, looking to, make more friends who are interested in board games, just go to conventions, like go to conventions, go to the open gaming room, just play games with people. Look for, there's always people looking for one more to fill out their board game. You can just meet so many people that way. So if you haven't been to a gaming convention, definitely get out there, go. It's just a great way to meet tons and tons of fellow geeks. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be Essen, doesn't need to be Gen Con, doesn't need to be the biggest one, even like small local ones, still perfect. It's all good. Well, Jos says, thanks, Deb and Rob, for all the information. He's done.
We hope to see you in Essen soon too. Maybe we'll see.
Maybe this year.
Missing Essen.
Yeah.
We shall hopefully see soon. It'll be very, very cool. Of course, if you want to get in touch with the good folks at White Wizard Games, Deb, Rob, how would they go about doing so? Aside from the 9 really ways that you mentioned, like I say, like your Twitter is probably the
I'm Deb on Twitter, DEB on Twitter. You can email me, DEBBIE at ourcompanyname.com. And we're both on Discord. I'd say I'm probably a little more active than Rob. My Discord ID is like this long thing with numbers and digits, so I can't really say it, but it has a wizard emoji in it, so I'm not sure how to say that.
So the trick is go to
games.com/Discord. There's a permanent invite there, and that will bring you to our Discord server, and you'll see me in there, occasionally, like typing things in there. You'll see my name in there. You'll see Saffron in there as well. And you can message us and ping us. And, and I'm in a lot of different groups too. Yeah. I'll see your message if you send me a message on Facebook. I know not everyone sees messages if you're not friends with them, but I do look at my messages that come from people that I'm not friends with.
Yeah. And basically messaging me, unfortunately, is a sad idea, because what'll happen is, like, 3 to 7 months after you sent the message, I'll notice that a message came in. So
yeah, especially so you can
get in touch with Rob, just scream into the void, you'll be fine. It's
have the same
probably as
reaction.
likely to get there.
Yeah. So if you have game submissions or, want to talk to Rob as a game designer, or, I can schedule time for you.
And
Cool.
and the secret password for all communication with us is, I wonder if you can help.
Yeah.
So Rory, I wonder if you can help. That's what I'm starting.
How can I help? See, I just instinctively go, how can I help?
Babysitting duties, Rory. Babysitting duties. That's
Actually, I would really enjoy that.
That's a great opening. Anyone that you're reaching out to.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, folks, thank you very much indeed. We truly appreciate it. Thank you, folks who joined us watching live, or whether you're watching on catch up as well. That is also wonderful too. If you want to get in touch with us as a company, we're at Hub Games pretty much everywhere. At the moment, we are pushing
except
our
TikTok.
virtual world, except TikTok. Oh God, don't make me
So
do
far.
Rory, please.
Yeah, I'm looking for TikTok skills.
So far.
Do the dancing and we'll also we are pushing
Michael,
also
you won't be
virtual
on TikTok.
world. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Virtual World Tour. Rory, let me say the 3 words. And yeah, it's very good. Sign up. If you want to get in touch with him, he's at Rory O'Connor. If you want to get in touch
Rory
with me,
O'Connor.
It's I've changed that. Oh, okay, I'll edit it. All right, yeah, Idle Michael for me, and we will be back on Friday with some more glorious Prismarina extravaganzas.
Mm-hmm.
Have a lovely one, folks. And this is where we wave. Goodbye.